Breaking news in the search for Egypt Air Flight 804. The Egyptian government confirms that crews combing the waters of the Mediterranean have found wreckage that belongs to the plane. Meanwhile, as investigators rule nothing out, including terrorism, the Greek defense minister says the plane made sudden, abrupt turns before losing altitude and vanishing from radar. Let's talk about all of this with Oliver McGee. He is an aviation expert as well as an aviation engineer. Oliver, we've spoken to you many times in the past after catastrophes like this one. What first comes to your mind?
Well, we are very, very pleased right now, John, that debris has been discovered, or else we would be in a long, protracted search across the deep sea oceans once again, as we've seen in the last 2 years with aviation incidents. So it's very good news that the Egyptian Vice President has stated that the debris has been found. So we have a pretty good location as to where we can find this. But more importantly, aircraft forensics, which would take place with the French BEA, could recover some of the wreckage and be able to determine from that forensics what was there at a catastrophic event like an explosion or something that's associated with downing an aircraft dropping 22,000 feet, plunging into the sea.
Right. If they've got debris on the surface, they will have a very good idea of where the main body of the aircraft lies underneath. You won't have another Malaysia Airlines 370 situation where you have to search, a continent-wide ocean or more to try to figure out where that plane came to rest.
Absolutely well said, John. The Mediterranean, as your previous guest said, is about a mile deep. When you look at the Indian Ocean, that's about 2.5 miles deep. And more importantly, divers can't go below, a fifth of a mile. So you have to go and use autonomous robots to be able to recover the hull. And I think that might be the case here, so that we can pull the hull up, much like what we saw in Air France 447. And more importantly, thankfully, we may not be looking at a 2-year wait for that hull. This is a smaller oceanic search, and so we'll be able to get this hull pretty quickly. But more importantly, we're looking to get those black boxes, because once we have those black boxes, John, we'll know exactly what's going on in that cockpit. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of speculation going on today, but those black boxes will clearly clear things up very, very quickly.
Right. We showed an animation at the top of the hour based on what we have received from the radar track of this flight, that it was straight and level at 37,000 feet heading toward Egypt, then all of a sudden banked sharply left, then did a full 360 to the right, and in the process lost some 20,000 feet of altitude before it disappeared from radar screens. Does that tell you anything?
Well, that's a lot of aircraft aviation gymnastics taking place, which says that something was going on in that cockpit. And more importantly, what I'm hearing is that when air traffic control was communicating with the pilot, everything was fine, everything was very calm, but then all of a sudden, silence. We're talking about aviation, navigation, and communication. And when the communication stops with air traffic control, people are going to get very, very concerned. What's going on inside the cockpit? And then all of a sudden you see this aviation gymnastics taking place. That really is opening up the door for the questions. It's speculative at this point, but the questions that terrorism or something catastrophic occurred inside this hot digital glass cockpit.
Yeah, because planes at 37,000 feet rarely just plunge from altitude.
As I've written many times on Boeing 777 with the MH370, Boeing 777 aircrafts do not vanish or fall out of the sky. And I also say that Airbus A320s do not vanish or fall out of the sky either. So when we see crashes of 37,000 feet cruise altitude and all of a sudden the plane is plunging, thousands of feet, that's a grave concern. We saw a similar type of incident with Air Asia 8501, but again, that was really about pilot error, trying to overcorrect the situation by pulling out the flight automation computer, and then when you disrupt the computer, then you're going to lose the controls of the aircraft, and then all of a sudden you get a big stall and the plane falls out of the sky, as you talked about in your previous segment.
Here's what we know, and these times are Greek times. At 2:24 a.m., the plane entered Greek airspace. It was identified Controllers spoke with the pilot, basically cleared it to continue on its course. Then they spoke to it again to get ready, to tell the pilot to get ready to leave Greek airspace. At 3:27 a.m., controllers repeatedly tried to contact the pilot. It was leaving Greek airspace at that point, and they were trying to get a hold of the pilot. They got no response. So then they tried on the emergency frequency. Again, they got no response. And at 3:29 in the morning, Greek time, the plane dropped off radar screens. So whatever happened in that last hour, there was no word of it from the pilots.
That's right. That silence from the pilot raises all kinds of questions of concern. And when we get that black box, you probably have given an indication of what that conversation is going to look like. And it's great technical speculation that you're doing right now, John. But I tell you, when we get that conversation on the black box, we'll see all of that detail. And then we will really, really know what was really happening. Everyone is probably right now speculating that something entered the cockpit situation, and that we're really curious as to what happened to a normal flight that all of a sudden goes into aviation gymnastics and then plunges 22,000 feet suddenly into the sea. That is not normal cruise flying, normal flight coming at the end of a flight. More importantly, I'm concerned that when it took a straight trajectory across the coastline of Italy over land, it was not until we got overseas that's when all of this gymnastics occurred, which says that you want to dump the plane into the sea and somewhat opens the door that you may want to lose the evidence. But right now we're happy that we've got wreckage, we've got planes with floatable devices floating to the surface, we got a debris streak that we can find here. We do have to perhaps see exactly how deep this aircraft is resting. It's probably on the average of about a mile down, and would probably require UAV robots to be able to recover the hull.
But it won't be another Malaysia Airlines 370. Oliver McGee, an aviation engineer and expert, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Now